On this. Okay, now we are recording. Good. That's why that is on the agenda, because otherwise I forget. Okay, and now back to the slideshow. Okay, and then I will turn off these controls. Hide. Oh. I'm going to try to turn off the controls. Hide video panel, hide floating meter. Okay, I hid that. I'm going to spotlight and pin the speaker here. Okay, and then I'm going to go to that. Okay, now you can see the slides. Okay, well first, so now we started recording. First item accomplished. Next item, the officer results, thanking the past officers for their service, financial and membership reports by Adrian, and then celebrating our successes. The main part of the evening is to take a look at the entire year and what did we end up doing, and then having breakout rooms on discussing what we could do, and then rejoining the main group and sharing. That's the evening for tonight. So ground rules, and this is to make hybrids work. For the people in the room, speak into a microphone when you're speaking. If you're on, I mean, if you are intending for the people in the room to hear what you have to say, then you are excluding all of the people, i.e. Barbara, from what is being heard. So that Barbara is not felt left out, please speak into a microphone. And then if you want her to see you, speak in front of a camera as well, which means come over here and speak into this microphone. For the Zoomer, mute yourself when not asked. Anyway, you're doing all that. Fine, Barbara. Okay, officer results. Who are the officers for starting January 1st? The president will be Amanda Casey. Yay, Amanda. Vice president will be Pam Giarizzo. I will be demoted to secretary. And right. Mm-hmm. And treasurer will remain Adrian Byram. So
keep track of the money. That's
right. Okay. Now I didn't make a slide for who the current officers are, but I do want to mention and thank them all for their service. Actually, Amanda, maybe you should do that as the incoming president. But I don't have a separate slide for that. Okay, I don't think.
Well, thank you very much, Barry, for your leadership this past year and for all your mentorship to me on being the vice president. And hopefully I will follow well in your footsteps, but you're a very hard act to follow. But I'm glad you're still going to be an officer next year. And I wanted to thank my husband, Dave Casey, for outgoing secretary. He's been doing that for 4 years now and keeping track of bylaws. So thank you, Dave, very much for all of your service. And thank you to Adrian for membership and for keeping track of all the money and the website and all that you do. And thank you for agreeing to continue on. So I really appreciate it. And thank you to all the people stepping up into new officer positions. I guess that's specifically Pam.
always.
Thank you, Amanda. So now treasurer's report, Adrian.
As you can see here, we started out with about 6,500. We had quite a few memberships renew during this period, and don't worry about it. Not very much in the way of expenses. We incur an expense of about $75 every month for the website and for the club membership software. So that's always there. And then we also spend a little bit of money on some software so that it's a little easier to manipulate the website. Anyway, so we've ended up with about $7,000, which is fairly typical for the way we operate. And how do I click on this? Oh, back. There we go. Okay. We have 165 active members right now. 42 of them joined us in 2023. So that was fairly good. 85 of you have already renewed for 2024. 86 actually, because I just got John's $20. And so you will be, anybody who's not joined or not renewed, you will be getting an email notice on the 10th, I think it is, of December. Please do, it gives you a click there. You can click and pay by Visa. You can leave a $20 check in our mailbox down at Gateway, but we'll continue to hound you until you renew. And so with that, I will.
Got to know they can give us more than $20.
Oh yeah, well that's true too.
Thank you, Adrian. So now we have a lot of committees. We want to look at what those committees have done during the year. I tasked each committee chair with the task of letting us know what you had done in the past year, what your plans are for the next year, and then to list your committee members so we can see all the work that is being done. And so that's what we're going to do now. And first, I'm going to call up Pam for her committee. And actually, while you're coming up, one thing I forgot, what I like to do around this time is to ask people if they have any new sustainability practice that they learned about or want to share so that we can all get educated on that, because that's part of why we're here. And sometimes I get responses and sometimes I don't. But I know we're doing a lot already, but okay. Well, if you think of something during the meeting, you can let us know. Okay, now, Pam, here you go.
Well, earlier this year, Carol Weed said to me, we need a legislative committee. So we formed one. We wanted to have greater impact on laws and policies related to sustainability and climate. And we thought that the way to do that would be to try to influence legislation, since that's on a statewide level and not, just a Rossmoor-wide level. So we got some people to join us, and we championed 14 bills this year, and 6 of them were signed into law. AB 363 by our own Assemblywoman, Bauer Cahan, bans neonics, basically, in non-agricultural uses. So landscaping, golf courses, things like that, getting rid of those pesticides that are so harmful to bees and other pollinators. AB 579 is going to be requiring zero emission school buses by, I believe, 2035. SB 244 is the Right to Repair Act, so that if you get a product that's worth more than $50, the manufacturer doesn't get to tell you that, oh, no, you can't repair it, you can't have somebody else repair it, you have to send it to us. This makes them give you the manual, tell you how you can get the parts and things like that. SB 253 and SB 261 were huge. These are corporate disclosure acts. The first one requires corporations to say what their what their greenhouse gases are, so that you know how much pollution a corporation is actually putting into the atmosphere. And 261 requires them to disclose to their shareholders, to the state, to everybody, what their climate-related financial risk is, so that people know whether they're about to invest in something that's got a lot of bad things about to happen. And then SJR 2 was the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty. The state of California let the federal government know that they wanted them to be a part of that, and that was sent to Congress. So far, I think 11 countries have signed on. Just this week at COP 28, Colombia signed on. They're the biggest country to have signed on so far, and the first one from Latin America. And then they were followed right afterwards by, I can't remember who, but we've got 11 countries, and we would like the US to be one of them. How do I push this to go to the next thing? Sorry. Oh, okay. So we had other bills that didn't make it through. One of them that we're really sad about is AB 57, which would create pocket forests in urban areas. That one was vetoed by the governor, but it was a cost issue. We don't think he had any problem with the actual idea. So we're hoping that that one will come back again. The others have to do with EVs, zero emission vehicles, divestment from fossil fuels. So there's all those, the rest of them remaining on there are still alive in the legislature, although I don't know for how long, but we will continue to pursue them until either they go through the process or until they're actually dead in the legislature. How do we pursue them? Well, we track them basically. And what we do is we write up summaries of the bills that we want Sustainable Rossmoor to endorse. And we bring those summaries to the steering committee and they vote on whether to endorse them or not. And if they do, then we write letters to the legislative committees that are hearing them to let them know that Sustainable Rossmoor is a supporter or opponent of the bill. And you know, there are always long lists of who the supporters and opponents are on any given bill and on the bill analyses. And so in this way, we make our voices heard and they know that there's this group in Walnut Creek who favors the bill. So that's how we pursue them. Yes?
And
how do we decide which bills?
which bill? Yeah.
Well, since we're new this year, what we have done this year is if we hear about a bill and we like it, we go for it. So we'll probably refine that as time goes on, but we started this, you know, after the session had even begun. So we just picked bills that we heard about from other environmental organizations or that we had read about and were concerned about. Like for me, it was SB 252, divestment from fossil fuels for CalPERS and CalSTRS that was important. So I grabbed that one. Carol Weed belongs to a number of local environmental organizations, and so she heard about different bills through them. So if any of you have bills that you think we should look at, we're happy to do it. And even more, we'd be happy to have you join us because there are a lot of bills that we would like to be able to follow and present to the steering committee, but we don't have enough people to do everything we'd like to do. You don't need to have legislative experience. We can help with that. And like I say, it's mostly you write a summary of the bill, you write a letter in support of the bill, and you just keep track of the bill as it goes through the process. So it's not very cumbersome. It doesn't take a lot of time to do it, and we would welcome the help. We've got a few bills that we're looking at presenting to the steering committee. We're researching them right now for next year. One would end state oil and gas subsidies. That's kind of a big one. One would provide funding for organic farming projects. Another one would prohibit investor-owned utilities from using customer money to fund legislation or lawsuits that challenge policies relating to greenhouse gases, because we don't think that PG&E or other utilities should be using our money against our interests. So that's another big one that we'll be going through. These are the people who have been on the committee so far. We would love to have your name up there for next year when we do this. So that's me, Carol Weed, Marcia, Margot's not here, Leela, and Karen isn't here. But please let me know if you'd like to join us. We would love to have your help. Yes.
Hey, Ben, I will admit that I wasn't keeping real close score during the year. Were there any bills that your committee asked the steering committee to endorse that we did not?
No.
Okay.
So, and we don't want to have a precedent set where you actually ever do that. So. Thank you.
Pam, we know you won't let us.
Before, I'm sorry, do you have a question, Carol?
I was going to add that we also, in addition, in terms of how we promote bills, there were a few bills that we asked for the membership to call specific legislators that were the decision makers as to whether a bill would be heard in a committee. Because the way so far the California legislature works is the chairman of a committee can just sit on a bill, and if he doesn't like it, he or she doesn't have to present it. So we asked our members to give some pushes, and they were successful. So we thank the members.
To your question, I understand you're a new resident. When the bills are brought to the steering committee, we don't, it's not a rubber stamp process. We discuss. So the decision is informed by our best thinking to the extent that we have good information.
I don't need to spend.
Right now, I have a tendency to wear too many hats at a meeting, so I just delegated. I would like to congratulate the committee and Pam for their work. I think we've come to the realization over the past year or so that legislative action is the most impactful thing that we can do in our fight against climate change. I mean, there's a lot that we do, and it's important and it's satisfying, but this impacts climate change on a more statewide or even larger effort. And as California goes, oftentimes the nation goes. So we're really having an impact. I think there was one bill that went through very quickly that we were the only organizations whose logo was on the legislative portal, that none of the other organizations, I mean, a lot of times you'll see Sustainable Rossmoor, Sierra Club, I should have done that the other Sierra Club, Environmental Defense Fund, Sustainable Rossmoor. So as far as logos that are on bills of the organizations that are favoring or opposing a legislation, so it's very impactful, and it's very, very satisfying work. I had the pleasure as president of signing all the letters that went up into the portal, so I got to read them all, and all I had to do was sign them. So that was one of my more enjoyable tasks as president. So I hope you enjoy it as well, Amanda. Now I'd like to call up Brad Waite to talk about the EV charging committee, and I'll trade jobs with you.
Thank you. We have to do a vote here.
Hi, for those of you that haven't had the misfortune of meeting me, my name is Brad Waite. And for this last year, I got to chair the EV Charging Committee, which wasn't real active as a group all together, because we quickly realized that a lot of what we needed to do was, research and lobbying, et cetera, and we could do that in small groups, et cetera. Plus, I'm guessing most of you probably know that I've spent the last 10 months being treated for chronic lymphocytic leukemia, and that obviously diluted my focus and my energy, but coming out the backside of that now, the one-year process. So we did accomplish a number of things, and I think that clearly what we're going to do, Mark and Barry, next year is going to be even more impactful, I think. We did host 2 EV demo sessions. The first one was requested by Tesla, and we said, sure, it's a good idea, and we had them come out, and it was well attended. And then they asked us, we come back, and they asked us a month later, can we come back again, because we had people in Rossmoor who wanted to take a test drive, and we didn't have time. And so we said, yep, and that will also invite other vendors to come, and which they did. And Tesla came out again and brought 4 different models, and the people that showed up, I think were very appreciative of that. And so I think that what we would like to do, at least next year, is a couple more of those events. And what we also started doing, and I think we'll do a lot more of that, next year, is consulting with either individual residents and or mutuals to figure out what they can do and should be considering to improve their, the offerings that they offer the residents for how they can charge near their home. Unfortunately, one of the members of our committee, Mr. Mark Feelig, who's here tonight, was the author of Mutual 2's policy, which is still alive and well, and Mark is running point on that. And so,
Because I wanted to charge.
exactly. And so I think, and also as you can see in this slide, I think another one of the things I know we're going to be actively involved in is helping Adrian, talk the, Rossmoor, especially GRF, into seriously looking at investigating the addition of some fast charging, stations when they do the 2 new solar farms. And so, but like every other committee in Sustainable Rossmoor, we're always looking for more people who have good ideas, good energy, good smiles. Because some of us on that committee are short on the ladder. So, but if you know anybody, and if you come across any things that we should be aware of that we may not be, such as what is your mutual currently actively looking at doing in the EV charging space. I don't assume that with the 25 some mutuals there are in Rossmoor that we are up to date on all of them all the time. We're not. Okay, any questions? Anybody have an EV they want to donate to us? Oh, hey, I had to ask. Mark?
Please go up Pleasant Hill and Geary. You know where Mona's Hamburgers are and Lenardi's? In the back lot, there's about 12 Tesla superchargers. They weren't hooked up yet Sunday, but they're in place. There's about a half a dozen EVgo chargers.
Right.
And there's 2 Volta Type 2 chargers. So it's just a bonanza for a charging geek. It's So I walked up to the one lady who was charging on the type 2, and I said, "That's a slow one." She says, "Yeah, but it's free." So,
Hey, that matters. Thank you.
So I guess I'll be going to Mona's more often to have dinner if there's free charging up there. At least as long as the free charging lasts.
Guess that's Amanda too.
That's type 2 free, they're all over the place.
Wow, okay. So Brad, you had some other slides here. Let's see. Did you go through them?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I think you did. Okay. And here are some of the committee members there. Mark, did we get your mutual right? Okay, okay. I changed it, Brad. I have final say on these slides, right? As president. Yeah. Okay. And now I'd like to call up Adrian to talk about storage, solar and storage committee.
Good, thank you. So this last year 2023 has been kind of a slow year for solar because 2022 we were still under NEM2 and it really made sense, economic sense to install solar. And then in March or April of 2023 they switched to to what people call NEM3, but which is actually called NBT, Net Billing Tariff. And that, the economics of that are such that if you put in a battery, the economics are decent, but if you just put in solar, the economics are not that good. And so, but nonetheless, about 20 people at least that I know of, many of them got it done before April. They worked real hard to get it done before April, so they're grandfathered in under NEM2. And I've noticed now quite a few people have reached out to me in the last month or two and are interested in installing solar, even though it's under the new tariff. And of course, they're interested because often because of the batteries, because they want to have non-interruptible powers, no matter what PG&E does. And of course, that's what you can do. So I think in 2024, we will see battery prices come down, continue to come down, become more of a commodity. And so I think we'll see an uptake, perhaps, of more people considering solar once again. And maybe we'll try and figure out some way that we can, as a sustainable Rossmoor, that we can actually promote it and that we can engage with people to do this in more detail. I don't know if there's anything else I had to say. No, I just talked about that. And yeah, so, okay. Right now, a lot of people have been involved with solar. It's kind of quiet, as I said, so hopefully we'll crank it up again in the near future. We have a couple of questions.
So those of us who managed to get in 2022 are happy campers today, generally. I think it's coming time to consider cleaning. And we had originally talked about batching that or somehow doing it collectively to get volume pricing and stuff. Is that something that the committee is going to think about, or do we need to do that by some other means?
Well, speaking personally, I have been tracking the production from my system, which we installed in September of 21. I have not seen any diminution in production. So I have not really felt particularly motivated to worry about cleaning.
So that's still the case. So maybe in another 3 years or something, we'll look at it again or something.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Rick Rivers on the way, though.
Yeah, I was wondering, Adrian, if you guys have been looking at the possibility of like an individual kind of PPA kind of thing, power purchase agreement? Because a friend of mine down in Camarillo, Leisure Village, you know, he did one of those deals where he got solar, he got a battery, and he didn't have to pay anything. All he had to do was like the solar farm up there, on the hill there, he just had to agree to purchase the electricity that was being produced. I'm wondering if we've looked at that at all here in terms of, is that a possibility?
Yeah, Barry initiated a contact with Sunrun, who offers that kind of a program. And we've been sort of talking with them about maybe being able to do that. There are some difficulties because of the MOD and our structure. But that might turn out to be a feasible thing in the future. And I think we're still talking to that guy, aren't we, occasionally?
Yes, he's hot.
Yeah. he needs to make some sales, so.
So the place that you were mentioning, is that our sister Rossmoor down? Okay. Camarillo, okay. Okay, because I knew that the Laguna Hills property, which was also created by the same developer, because they have their own GRF, it's called GRF, and they have their own Mutual One. Their Mutual One has solar on their carports. I hesitate to. Oh, yes, so there are parallel universes, and we track that, so we know what's possible when there's a willing board. But anyway, but yes, we looked in quite a lot of detail at the PPA, and we had a number of meetings, and we thought, oh, maybe this is the way to continue solar, and it might be at some point, but some of the stumbling points, one was when you're selling the property, handling the transfer of the power purchase agreement to the new owners becomes a major cause of delay, or can be a major cause of delay in the transaction, and people are hesitant to put in those type of impediments when they're trying to sell their property. Another issue was the technology that was being offered, where there's a lot of changes in battery design and capabilities, and we thought it was prudent to wait maybe a year before we really started promoting it. But we did look at it in a fair amount of detail. We agree with you that probably is the future, but it still needs to be, the details need to be worked out.
GRF farm now, PPA?
Yeah, the GRF farm, Mark asked whether the GRF farm is a PPA. Yes, it is. And the GRF has a contract with Solar Tech to install 2 new solar farms, one over the Gateway parking lot and one over the new pickleball court and part of the event center parking lot. The new pickleball court will be going in, sort of tucked in just behind the event center. And that project is essentially underway. Permits are being obtained at the moment. And so hopefully those 2 will come online maybe next year. They are grandfathered in under NEM2, so that's good news. And that's where we had the idea of maybe somehow grabbing the electricity out of those and using it for DC fast chargers.
What do you mean, we, Bailface? It's your idea.
No, it wasn't entirely. So anyway. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adrian. Okay, planet-friendly eating. Dave?
Thank you, Adrian and up or we're good? A little bit up?
Yeah.
A few months ago, we had the Savers come, and I wanted to tell you, this is a Savers shirt. It had the tags in it. It was $8.99 when I bought it. So I wear it tonight.
I've got some $8 saver shoes.
There you go. So there's some financial benefit from attending these meetings. And I want to thank Pam and Brad and Adrian for their committees. Some years ago, we had an issue of what are we really going to do about climate change and up our game. And one of the results of upping our game was what are the big impacts on climate change? And surprisingly, one of the impacts on climate change is what you eat. And what we eat as Americans contributes about somewhere between 12 and 15% to greenhouse gases. And we were pretty surprised about that. And so we formed a committee called Climate Friendly Eating, a team to encourage planet-friendly eating and trying to get Rossmoor and the general Walnut Creek area to consider alternatives to eating mostly meat, mostly beef, because beef's impact on climate change with carbon dioxide and methane is huge. It's 60 times beans and rice per pound of protein. So we started this committee. We've had a lot of fun. We've had some hard times. We got hooked up with Meatless Monday, where Paul McCartney sang the songs about joining Meatless Monday, and we contacted them, and we've actually communicated with them. And we also listed, next slide. Thanks. We also listed, well, we're on the SR webpage. Go ahead and read about what we're doing. But the third thing down is we created a Instagram site. Please go and have a look at it. It's been going on for a couple years. And Meatless Monday posted us on their bio of also following Planet Friendly Eating team. So we thought that was like pretty great. But anyhow, we're focused on encouraging at least Meatless Monday, 1 day a week. Plant-rich diets can be healthy, can save you money, and can help the environment. Some of the things that we've done is we provided the snacks for the SR meetings to try to get you aware that plant-rich food, all the foods that you eat in the last couple, 6-8 months of these meetings has been plant-based snacks. The wine is plant-based wine. So you might think, I thought so too, but actually something in the processing of the filtering of wine uses a cartilage-based product. And so some wines use that and some don't. And so Pam is our expert, and we're only sharing wines that are not, don't use that kind of filtering in the final processing. We also started going to restaurants, holding our meetings at restaurants that have a variety of vegan or plant-based dishes, and that turned out to be really fun. And as a result of that, Pam has created, or we all, but Pam mostly, a guide to eating vegan and Contra Costa. You can get a copy of that electronically. You can click on a city, and it'll list all the restaurants that have good plant-rich dishes. Click on the restaurant, it'll open their menu, and decide if you want to go there or not. So that's something that we're available. I will say that it was very difficult to get Rossmoor in general to individual residents here to sign on to some kind of commitment of a Meatless Monday, just 1 day a week. We had some tables in the early days set up with some signatures and some charters, and we'd give them a copy if you'd sign up. And it was a tough sell in Rossmoor. So, yeah.
I'm just curious. Do you all know that Burger King has $3 Whopper Wednesdays, and it includes the Impossible Whopper? And does that qualify for what you're all considering meatless?
Yes.
So shouldn't they,
For lunch today.
are they in the book?
No, I only.
It's only like 3 miles from here.
Yeah. The only restaurants that are on the blog that has the vegan options in Contra Costa are restaurants that actually put vegan next to the item on the menu, because otherwise you're having to guess whether something that looks like it might be vegan has something in it that's not, like honey, or, you know, like with Thai food, they always have fish sauce in it, even though it says it's all vegetables, but it might have fish sauce. So only the only restaurants mentioned are the ones that actually say that the things are vegan on the menu.
So it's just not meatless, it's vegan.
It's vegan.
Okay, did you hear Burger King got sued? Somebody found out that they were cooking the Impossible Burgers on the same grill of the real burgers, and they sued. But I don't think they advertise them as vegan.
They don't, so that's
Yeah.
why they're not listed on the list of
But
restaurants.
does the possible product qualify as vegan?
Impossible itself is vegan,
Yeah.
yes.
They're
And
great
if you
burgers, they
take-
sell them at
And if you
Safeway.
take Impossible Burgers or Beyond Meat
Yeah.
burgers home and put them in your air fryer for 8 minutes, flip them over and put them on for 4 minutes more, they're absolutely perfect. They're delicious.
Yeah, and I grill them on my propane barbecue. They do.
So
they're
anyhow,
excellent.
Planet Friendly Eating team
That's
is
right.
organized to try and reduce and fight climate change. We're still ongoing. We have a lot of things coming up, and if you're interested, we'll just push the enter.
Should work.
Here's our committee members. Some of them are relatively new to our committee, but we're interested in more people coming on, having new ideas. And we've started now every other month or every third month, we'll be meeting in restaurants that serve delicious plant-based meals. And so you're welcome to just come to one of those meetings and meet us all. Thank you.
I would add that you also approached the Creekside Grill, and that's why it's listed as to which things on the menu. Not that they expanded their menu very much, but at least they list it. And you also a couple times made presentations at the Walnut Creek City Council, and it's one of the items that's been included in the Sustainability Action Plan. So you're doing good stuff.
Very good. So next is Trash Talk Committee. I'm not sure if there's anyone here to talk to that. Well, we can see what they've done. And, well, let's, I think that's the case. If they were, they would have spoken up, but let me just see. Members, okay, so Kathleen, Victoria, Rebecca, or Jan, so none of them are here. Okay.
I'll just add that the one really important thing is represented by that avatar on the side. That is the button on the Sustainable Rossmoor website that now has a rather elaborate amount of information on it for Trash Talk. It looks simple when you look at it, but each thing is clickable and takes you to other things. So there's a lot more than is in the phone book, and a lot of good resources there that are Rossmoor specific. So some things like hazardous waste that you can get rid of right here locally without having to go all the way to Martinez, for example. So it's worth looking at that. Click on it on the website.
Very good. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna move on to Film Committee. Carol, could you speak to that?
I don't know that I need to read that to you. We're continuing. One thing that was more successful this year, we continue to build on the fact that we have more interaction with the audience. So the discussions after the films are more robust, and we're getting more and more suggestions from audience members for films. So they've watched something or they've seen something. If we go to the next screen, which I should have asked you which button to push. Oh, okay. You'll see that number 2 there is that GRF has added subscriptions to Prime and Hulu. So in addition to Netflix, it expands the number of films that we can show. Unfortunately, they have to be free films, and you may know if you have Prime that almost all of theirs you have to pay a copay, and those you can't show in Peacock. But we have been limited to Netflix and DVDs. And we get a lot of DVDs on interlibrary loan from other libraries across the country. So we save a lot of money that way, but also have access to some interesting sort of niche films, because and the environment has more and more films and subjects, but they don't have them available necessarily everywhere. So that's and look forward to a program we're going to have pretty soon. I don't know if we've decided what month, but we're going to have a film that we have been saving that's about healthy eating, and some eating probably before the film and then followed by the film. So you'll hear more about that.
In the old days,
Yes?
Back before the pandemic, we used to have a meal.
That's right, every-
Plant-based Rossmoor had a plant-based meal and went to the film
Every month.
Yeah, every
And they
month.
had a film on that subject.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
And then that
There's no
all
reason we
fell
couldn't
apart.
do that if there's enough interest. Speaking of films, we have a film coming up next Wednesday, so not tomorrow, but the next Wednesday in Peacock. And it's Eco Comedy Shorts. And it's a film that we had shown, we created it. We were the filmmakers, and Marcia put us on to a filmmaker who consolidated films that we chose, and we had 8 judges that were film buffs in the community, and anyway, so we ended up with 74 minutes compendium of funny little short films. So come a week from tomorrow at 7 o'clock in Peacock and enjoy those with us.
Okay, next is Marcia McLean talking about leveraging partnerships, or possibly a committee by a different name. Smelling is sweet.
Hi, everyone. I'm very excited about all the things that we're doing. And I've been having a lot of trouble trying to figure out what leverage is and what we're going to do. So I got the definition of leverage is the power to influence a person to try or a situation to achieve a particular outcome. So the idea behind leverage is working with other environmental groups. We don't have to go out. We can do that, get people that are here now in sustainable Rossmoor do that. So that's leverage. However, one of the things that I've discovered this year is the fact that it isn't just that, it's intersectionality. And what intersectionality is working with, whether it's the Democrats of Rossmoor or the tree people or anything like that. So intersectionality is the interconnected nature of social categorizations such as race, class, and gender as they apply to a given individual or group, regarding creating an overlap and interdependent system of discrimination and dissemination or disadvantage. Through the awareness of intersectionality, we can better acknowledge and ground the differences among us. So one of the things I've discovered this year a lot is that there's a lot of organizations that we can work with. For example, whether it's the Democrats of Rossmoor, we've done an awful lot based on our contribution to 350.org. So we've been working with these different organizations and have helped that. So the idea is the committee is really just, if you belong to another environmental group, call me. We don't have meetings. We just need to know that we can send them out and do it, whether it's to the steering committee or to the whole. And we have this. In fact, last night I went to the 350 Contra Costa Action, which was a lovely dinner, and we talked about all different things. And one of the things we talked about is, for example, in terms of what do we do? How can we work together? And I think that that's really key to that. Okay, now which do I press to? Oh, okay. So the whole idea is that, and you can read that, I don't have to do that. So I'm really looking for people who are interested in giving us some other organizations that we can work with. We can put them on our website, we can put them in the newsletter, and pretty much what it is. So I'm looking forward to people. Okay, what did I do wrong, Barry? Okay, so those are the members now of our committee, but we're really looking for other people to do that. I'm excited about this idea because we really can work with intersectionality. Please let me know what you're interested in and we can move forward. Thank you.
And see, now Tree Planning and Preservation Committee. Leela, if you could speak to that.
Thank you, Barry. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me now? Yes. So we were very pleased with what we were able to accomplish in 2023 and focusing on the education and advocacy around tree planting and preservation. So members of the committee published articles. We wrote articles about featured trees that people walk around and look at and wonder, well, what are they? And so initially we just did a lot about the description and the beauty and biological aspects of the trees. But then as we went along, we thought we should put a little more substance in there about climate change and sustainability. So we started to include information about drought and water use, fire issues, so that people could really begin to think about the connection of the trees and their environment. Conducted tree tours as well. We've also supported the care of these very young oaks from the Acorn Planting Project. When I first joined Sustainable Rossmoor in early 21, I came just at the time when the Acorn Planting Project was taking place. And I was desperate to plant a native tree. And you can't imagine how hard that is. You can't just go somewhere and just plant a tree. And so this happened to come. I just joined Sustainable Rossmoor, and I sent a message to the group and saying, I really want to do this. How can I do it? It seems impossible in Rossmoor. And so many people wrote to me and said, this is taking place. Contact the landscape department, and Rebecca Pollen was here at the time. And I was the very last person to come along in January 21. They started a little earlier. And I was the last person, and there was only one site left. And so I have my own site with all my little oaklings, and I have about 6-7 spots. And it's at on Ptarmigan, on entry 15. If you ever want to go and visit them, you can.
Are we supposed to bring water?
Well, no, we watered them. You have to water them for 3 years until their root system is really well established. So most of them are 3 years now. Some are on the East Ridge, but they're all over Rossmoor. Pardon?
How tall?
Oh, they're all vary. They vary. Now, that's interesting because the ones that were planted near the golf course, near the Buckeye tennis courts on the edges, they're gigantic. And my little ones are about just that big, because they're far away from water, and we had to lug gallons of water to go water them during certain times. And well, I'll get to this in the next slide about oaks and how you have to take care of them. So we also developed an oak tree checklist with best tree care practices, because there are things you should do and there are things that you absolutely should not do in taking care of oaks. We created the TPPC website, and I want to thank Adrian for all his help and patience answering all my questions. So we have our own website now. And we started just in October to expand outreach and education to mutual landscape reps, and I'll talk more about that in the next slide. And members continue to support the Arbor Day Foundation and their activities. And the final one, many members attended the Walnut City Council meetings as they were beginning to develop their Sustainability Action Plan, which went on for, 3 years, Carol? Maybe about 3 years. And members attended meetings, we spoke, gave written comments. And then in the initial plan, there was one line buried somewhere deep under waste about trees. And in the final version of the Sustainability Action Plan, they have a whole strategy on nature-based solutions and trees, which they seemed not to include earlier. And then they also hired a Walnut Creek City Sustainability Coordinator, and they finally adopted the climate emergency resolution. So we felt we accomplished something there with the City Council. Looking to our future, we will continue with education of residents and advocacy around tree planting and preservation. And I just want to say something about the issues that we've had to grapple with as a committee, because some members really wanted us to be much more action-oriented, much more, I don't know what the right word is, aggressive or assertive in trying to effect change in Rossmoor. And for those of you, and many of you have worked a long time with the landscape department here, that is no mean feat to accomplish. and others, others come to the meetings because they love trees, they want to learn more about trees and appreciate them. And it was just a challenge trying to figure out where do we land. And so we realized that even though we have a lot of people on our mailing list, those who do come are few. And how do we best focus our time and energy in areas where we can really make a contribution? We can't be all things to all people. And so we decided that we would identify activities that we would focus on as a committee, but then also support individual initiatives that people really wanted to take on. And our activities reflect that. And we started last October we met with one mutual, and we realized that, here was a place that with the mutuals, they are the people who are closest to making selections about trees and getting trees planted and really looking out for their care and maintenance. And we thought that that's an area where we think we could really make a contribution. And when we met with Mutual 3, there were 30 reps, and they had very specific requests of what they wanted. And they asked for tree guides so that they could make better selections of trees. What they talk about is trees for the 21st century in a hotter, drier, fire-wise, climate. And then they also wanted more information about best tree care practices around irrigation, about pruning, about how to care for roots, very practical things that I think over the years people have tried to present other places, but not had much success. So we think with the mutuals, because they are actually doing the work, we could maybe make a difference. So we'll continue to conduct the Rossmoor tree tours. We'd like to coordinate a new acorn planting project in the fall, because that can engage the whole community. That was very successful, a few years ago. And all the materials that we develop for the mutuals, we can now put onto our website and connect them to other resources as well. And we'd like to share this oak tree checklist with the landscape department and the mutuals. So I'll end with a little story. A few years ago, the members measured a lot of those beautiful big oaks in Dollar Park. At the time, I guess it was around the pickleball courts being built and trying to garner, a lot more support. And we measured them, and there's a very simple formula that you can use. Having measured the circumference of the tree, you can calculate the age of a tree. And so we calculated that many of those trees in Dollar Park, some are quite young, but many are like 240, 50, 60, and 270 years old. And a few weeks ago, Carol and I went and measured 2 more oaks And those are near Buckeye tennis courts. Do you recognize those magnificent big oaks? And one of them is, the smaller one, is about 339 years old. And the bigger one is 377 years old. And so I would ask you to please to go and visit them, admire them, and appreciate them, because there is no other tree on the planet that does more for flora and fauna than an oak tree. So, thank you.
I just have a quick question, is I know that the landscape committee was thinking about doing something with the oak trees around Dollar in terms of the thing. So what's happening? Are we going to be able to save those trees by?
Well, John T. has said what you speak. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I just didn't finish. We have three co-chairs. And we share, we shared the chairing. And it was Jerry McNair, who is a landscape architect, myself. And Peggy Pearson was a very valued member, but now she's moved on to other things. And Bruce Poster has joined us, and he was at the very first meeting of the Tree Planting and Preservation Committee, so it's good to have him on board. And we have many members, and we just see a few that are actual in. We'll have to wait and see. The ones that they have done, you know, the ones with the little corral around them, they dug a big cavity around them so that the roots can breathe. But the one, you're talking about the coast live oak, yeah, that we'll have to wait and see what they do. The way they've cordoned it off, they may do some excavation but we haven't heard from the landscape department. But I think the more we can go to the landscape department and advocate for them directly, but people have been trying to do that for a long time.
Thank you, Leila. Communications, now let's see, Margot was not available today, so I think, sure. Right, so Margot is the person who writes the articles for the Rossmoor News, advertising our meetings and other things. And I'm able to just piggyback on her work to alert you to when the meetings are and provide you with the links here. So, and then she lists the different topics that we met on, and nowhere else are we mentioning that. So you can see that education on a variety of sustainable topics is important to as committee work that we do, and this lists what a lot of those things are: trees, landscape, biofuels, recycling, resilience, climate legislation, EV charging, driving, and birds. And then for the future, the committee will continue to communicate about this, and so that's what the communications committee does. Earth Matters, Barbara, I know you were here. Let me just she still is, okay. Let me just put you on here so I can pin you if you want to say something about your committee.
Well, first I want to thank you for accommodating me on Zoom. I appreciate it. And also I wanted to say that Earth Matters is a column that appears now monthly in the Rossmoor News. It was the brainchild of Bob Hansen, who was also one of the contributors and wrote wonderful articles, and he died last week. And so I just wanted to pay tribute to him and look for an article in the Rossmoor News, hopefully on the 13th of December, just telling you all about the wonderful things he did, not just for Sustainable Rossmoor. So our group had kind of a rocky start when there was some discussion on whether Earth Matters was a political column, and if so, the policy was going to change. Well, the policy changed. We need to be a little more rigorous in our fact checking, and we now have a column once a month, rotating with other political columns. Our current group of writers that are greatly appreciated are Adrian Byram, Karen Perkins, Paul Wright, and Margot Thielander. And we also have we started putting an ad or a request, here it is, in the Sustainable Rossmoor news that appears every Sunday, thanks to Pam, requesting new writers. And as I said, I totally appreciate everybody that does write, because the articles are really good. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Barb. And now let me get us back to here. Great. Okay. I think let's see, whoops, what just happened? I hit something. Yeah. Okay, Idle Free Rossmoor. See, Carol, are you speaking on this, or?
I'll just speak from here because people can read that. Basically, we've been successful in Rossmoor to have it be idle-free as far as the fleet goes. So they're saving money and on fuel and maintenance by reducing and by not idling GRF and MOD vehicles after they're parked. That was a policy informal for a long time, but not a lot of employees in the room about it. And so that became more official. And so if you have, and both the general manager and staff has asked that residents, contractors, and delivery people also follow that same advice. So if you're walking around and you see a vehicle gets parked, it's perfectly fine to knock on the window and say, would you please turn off your motor? That's the policy in Rossmoor. So, and if you're in Lafayette, you better do that, because in Lafayette, visitors are also included. So Lafayette became, I think that's on the next slide, became one of more than 50 cities in Walnut Creek. So this past week, their sustainability environmental task force passed that through their city council. And our city council has that sign that you see there, a few of them in downtown, and it looks like 15 minutes and that's all you see. But if you read the tiny print, then it says waiting, turn off your motor if you're waiting more than 30 seconds, which is the city policy for employees and for their fleet and for downtown. But the Sustainability Action Plan has not yet implemented an idea about extending it further in at least the rest of the downtown or even all of Walnut Creek. So that's in the works.
Very good. I think
it's a 15-minute, you can park there with your motor off. And after 15 minutes, you have to turn your motor on and leave.
Okay. So I remember it was early in January, I met with Jeff Matheson and lobbied for them adopting this. And then I remember friend and GRF board member Maxine Topper telling me a week or so later, she just got educated about idle free. And then, so he actually did listen to Sustainable Rossmoor. Is there a question?
I've never understood why buses, in particular tour buses, sit there and idle for a half hour, an hour or more. Is there some benefit that they feel they're getting from it?
Sometimes they don't start again. They got to call out a mechanic. It's all economic. Big trucks.
To keep the driver comfortable.
That too,
But
sometimes.
most of the year, in California, they don't need heat or air when they open the doors. So it's, they don't have a good rationale. And many, the Walnut Creek buses don't do that. And, many cities don't, so it's not. Right, we do have 4 routes of electric buses in downtown Walnut Creek. And I can tell you something else about electric school buses, which is really exciting. But some people may not realize that the GHGs from idling are only about 2% of the total, although why not get rid of that 2%, because it's a win-win. You save money on gas, you save money on maintenance, but it's also a lot of particulate pollution that is much more damaging than just the GHG. So it causes immediate respiratory and even mental states. Studies were done not too long ago at Stanford showing that they use diesel school buses. More than half of the population, 24,000 school buses in California, more than half of those are diesel. And they're much more in rural areas than in urban. And in studies, it showed that students that used the bus to get to school had decreased IQ and decreased tests and academic performance in schools. And they measured it, compared some different things. So just this year, the city, we helped bill to get through this California legislature that as Pam mentioned before, all school buses are going to be phased out so that they're going to all be electric. And it's good, the Inflation Reduction Act has grants that will pay for school districts to change over to electric. So not only will they help their kids be healthier and less asthma, and it's not just for the kids that were exposed. The pollution inside these school buses was 10 times as high as the pollution outside the buses. Wow. So it was like a little incubator of bad air. So anyway, it's getting, changes are coming.
Okay, thanks, Carol.
There's this whole technology called start-stop. A lot of new cars come with it for efficiency and for gas mileage. It goes into their fleet calculations. And sometimes I pull up next to a big honking Mercedes and it goes silent at the stop sign. And then the thing sounds like a Briggs and Stratton when they engage the gas pedal, and it starts the engine back up. Have we talked to Jeff Matheson about fleet replacements? Those are on trucks and cars and stuff, that be part of the fleet?
Yeah.
Well, no, certainly, yeah, but then you got to charge them and yada, yada. I've seen one Leaf over there charging at Gateway that has a Rossmoor sticker on the side of it. Is that owned by GRF? Anybody know?
Don't know.
Okay.
I think that one was, that might have been Tim's. O'Connor, what?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's a private one? Because it says Global Lighting Foundation on it.
Our prior.
Okay.
Tim O'Keefe, that's it, thank you.
Well, he's not here anymore. He had a Volt and a Polestar.
Oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
okay, I don't know. Anyway.
All right.
Okay.
But on that topic of switching the fleet over, there is a project, we have a gas tank at MOD, an underground gas tank.
Yeah.
Because we fuel the vehicles from that gas tank. And it needs to be examined and maybe replaced or maybe removed. And so you can expect to see something in the planning committee's agendas in the next few months about actually replacing that. And I think what, if you see that and feeling moved, please go to the planning committee meeting, stand in front of them and say, 86, that gas tank, we should not be doing that.
Yeah.
We should be maybe bringing in, because we have the solar farm up there, bringing in a level 3 charger.
Sure, but you gotta serve the fleet.
To serve the fleet and start thinking about moving to electric trucks.
So no initiatives have been made yet?
But nothing's been done yet. So something to pay attention to.
I would assume the city or the county makes them inspect that fuel dump up there,
Oh, yeah.
just like anybody gas station. And if it's leaking or out of spec, they would have to, not voluntary.
Yep.
I hope.
Okay, let me move on to I think the final committee, and that is the steering committee. The steering committee, which is chaired by the president, it contains the elected directors that you elect. You elect 3 each year. There are 6 of them total. 4 of them are your officers, and then also, 2 at large, or maybe finance, I'm trying to recall. But, and as well as the chairs of all of the committees that you heard talk about. So it's a good group. We typically get, 9 or 10 at our steering committee meeting. They meet each month. That's who steers the direction of the club. And I want to acknowledge them with this slide. I think Adrian has the distinction of being listed 5 times. So it's not, he only gets 1 vote though. So that's why, although it's more than, it's about 15 on that slide or 16, but you're not on there. Okay, my apologies.
You can take over the website. There you go.
Okay, so I omitted Susan Harris. My apologies. Anybody else I forgot? Marcia? Let's see. Oh, Brad. Oh, boy. Okay. Oh, boy. Okay, well, that's what happens when you do things last minute. Sorry about that. This was the last slide I worked on. Okay, my apologies. So it's larger than what I have listed here. But they help drive the direction of the committee, of the committee, of the club, and helps as a whole. We talk about what topics we want to bring to monthly meetings, and proposals and all sorts of things, donations. There's a number of things that we discuss. So I want to acknowledge the group, and it's a great working group. I think we get a lot of great work done, and I appreciate all that the committee has done. Brad?
You may just want to remind everyone that it's open to any member.
Yes, any member can attend. They don't necessarily vote if they're not chair of a committee, but they can certainly attend and influence the vote on items. And in fact, Pam and Margot became regular attendees before they stepped up to become members of the committee, actual members. So it's a good way to get involved.
I mean, they knew what they were getting in for, and they did it anyway.
Yep. Okay, well, I think, right. So I think what we're going to do is that we're going to, sorry, let me back up here. Okay. I think since it's just about 8:30, we're going to end the meeting at this point, and I will suggest in my position of still being on the steering committee, but not as president anymore, that in January we do the breakout rooms and the planning for the future and how people want to do things. Because I think this was very helpful for us to be able to review all the great work that you have all done, or many of you have done over the past year, and you can think about what you want to do. I mean, we do face this climate change. We do face this existential threat, and there are things that we can do. We can make a big difference, especially being in California. So we'll be talking about that at the next meeting. Are there any final words before we sum up the meeting and go back to eating, drinking, and socializing, or cleaning up, as the case may be? Okay, well, thank you so much. Okay, and thank you on Zoom. Thank you, Barbara.